Welcome everyone to Book Study 19, An Unfolding Consciousness. Today, we're going to be talking about the occult science on near-death experiences, journeys out of the body, the out-of-body experience. To many, this may sound far-fetched, but if you are here on this channel and you're a student of the perennial philosophy, then this is actually a common understanding. You get this. Now, I spend a lot of time putting these teachings into application on myself by working on myself. God knows there is enough material here to keep me busy for lifetimes. And I find great comfort in knowing that this one physical life is not all that there is. I have come to understand that my time here in this physical body is a most miraculous opportunity, and one that I have taken for granted too many times. But knowing that this life, as this woman, this body, Anne, is really just like one word in one sentence and a paragraph and a chapter and a book and a library of endless libraries. And that offers much hope and comfort. With thousands and thousands of near-death experiences being reported in the world today and more coming through every single day, we have a chance to compare and contrast them with the ancient teachings and each other. And I can't tell you how excited I get when I hear many of the NDEers, many of them, completely vindicate and validate the archaic wisdom. This is a fantastic time to be alive, and one does not have to have an NDE to benefit from the wisdom that is gained there. It's all right here in this text and many others, with links here in this one to each and every source that has come through over thousands and thousands of years. But one has to be cautious and use discernment, as there are some NDE testimonies that are flavored and leaning towards one particular religion, and you can see it's pure propaganda. Listen carefully, watch carefully to them, and you will recognize the spin. So watch and listen to as many of them as you can, and look for the commonalities, as we do with our religions, sciences, and philosophies, and the truth will shine through. And now here, I'd like to give a massive shout out to our beloved Chris Sheridan, who is also a dedicated student, one who has spent many years with the work of Manly P. Hall. And he also has his own podcast in a similar vein as what you see here on this channel. And it is called Living the Inner Life. And you can find Chris at Chris Sheridan 33 here on YouTube. Chris writes some very beautiful truth about his own journey in working with the teachings. Chris writes, I have remained anonymous. And I get that, Chris. He writes, I just didn't want any of it to be about me. I totally get that. But now he realizes that all the ancient wisdom, it needs an interpreter or a presenter to bring it forth into the current generation. There is much needed work, he writes, to be done for this world that so desperately needs to be guided by the lamp of wisdom. So very well said, Chris. Thank you, beautiful soul. I love you, and I am so grateful that you are here. And also, I know many of you are here on this channel. You might have come in because of the audiobooks. That's how it all started. The Voice of the Silence, written down by H.P.B. Light on the Path, written down by Mabel Collins. The 14 Lessons in Yogi Philosophy and Oriental Occultism. Those are life changers. That's William Walker Atkinson there. We've gone through several evolutions, name changes, and after a personal, unfortunate, and unpleasant experience with the TSE, which is the Theosophical Society headquarters, London, England, they were not fond of the way that I tried to usher Theosophy into the modern world by creative TikToks and video shorts. They did not like it at all. And time again, I've said that these texts are not meant for members only in tired, old, dusty lodges and libraries, but they're instructions for living for each and every human being on our planet. So I gave up and I stepped away. I changed the name of the channel again, and I put it on hiatus over the years 21 and 22. I wasn't sure if I'd ever be back. I didn't know what I was going to do. But this text, this 4-volume set, and the gentle, pure heart of Dr. Eddie Villamoria brought me back, and it is the teachings that I serve. I wish to do anything and everything I can to help get them out into the world, and it is not about me. I'm just a former radio broadcaster, and I wish to be of service, and I'm doing the only thing I can think of by sharing them with you in video shorts and these study videos here. Though our crowd here is small, it's intimate, but I believe whoever's meant to see these will see them. So let's get started. Our yellow post-it notes for today's lesson are proof about consciousness not limited to the brain, and veridical, which means genuine, NDE perceptions unexplained by neuroscience. NDEs show the need to transcend materialistic theories and means to access the genuineness of an NDE. We're moving forward in volume 1. We're on page 87, Journeys Out of the Body and Near-Death Experiences. This is Unfolding Consciousness again, exploring the living universe and the intelligent powers in nature and humans, and that's you. This is all about you. All this is about you. The near-death experience, the NDE, the out-of-body experience, OBE, and the lucid dreams, there are subtle distinctions as well as a considerable overlap between them, lucid, dreaming, NDEs, and OBEs. So even though they are described under separate headings for the sake of clarity, it is difficult and pointless to try to attempt a hard, fast, clear line of separation between them. It is, as they all involve altered states of consciousness that is not confined solely to the physical body. So Eddie reiterates that this is an enormous subject, and therefore what is said here in this chapter of Unfolding Consciousness is by no means an all-inclusive explanation. There can't be an all-inclusive explanation, but it's more like a taster session supported by references and links to satisfy any unbiased reader about how scientific evidence on these altered states of consciousness compromises the limitations of the purely materialistic scientific explanation and understanding on mind and consciousness, and therefore points to different realms of consciousness expressing itself through appropriate subtle bodies. It's so beautiful. And a side note from me here, everything is energy. Energy manifests as matter, and energy exists whether there is matter or not. That is the often confusing manifest and unmanifest. So, near-death experiences. Advances in medical science have demonstrated that a person pronounced clinically dead, which means no breathing, no heartbeat, no electrical brain activity, registered on the electrodes of the electroencephalograph machine for a few minutes, or sometimes even longer, they can be revived, and then they can sometimes describe in vivid and accurate detail the event known as an NDE, which means near-death experience. This has shown that conscious mental activity and memory can be experienced where there are no vital signs of physical life during a critical accident or cardiac arrest. And here, it is important to note that the electrical activity of the brain ceases within a few seconds following a cardiac arrest. Several of these experiences have been proven to be genuine, and they completely coincide with reality. Now, we should note here that in the near-death experience, as well as the out-of-body experience, the recollection is extremely clear, more clear than clear, more real than real, with no confusion, jumbled perceptions, or fantasies, which could be the case if this experience were drug-induced. Now, there's an important book called The Self Does Not Die, Verified Paranormal Phenomena from Near-Death Experiences. It provides strong evidence in favor of genuine perception during NDEs when the brain, according to the accepted decree of modern neuroscience, is incapable of supporting such conscious experiences. Now, Eben Alexander, many of you will know Eben's name. You're familiar with him. He chronicled his own remarkable NDE experience in his book, proof of heaven, and due to his impeccable qualifications as a Harvard neurosurgeon, qualifies as an authority on the subject. Eben gave a fine review of The Self Does Not Die, and in his review he states that the authors have gone to great length, to make an objective analysis of over 100 cases. He says, furthermore, the quality of verifiable data and objective evaluation and the rejection of possible materialist interpretations makes this an important and timely book that offers significant verifiable support to the emerging scientific view that consciousness is fundamental to the universe, and in addition, the soul exists and does not depend solely on the physical brain for its conscious expression. The factual characteristics of NDEs are supported. They're supported by powerful and verifiable evidence from science. But despite the numerous interpretations of doctors based on their own various disciplines and personal ideals, there seems to be no satisfactory explanation-based proof about consciousness, not limited to ordinary physiological, biochemical, or psychological lines. And there's very little regarding what many, but not all NDEers discover, that they seem to have a second body. You've heard this, similar to their own physical body, or that they have no physical body at all, but appear to themselves as a mist. And I'm adding here sometimes an energy body or an orb of light. In Volume 2 of Unfolding Consciousness, we explore in depth how occult science supplies the overwhelming theoretical framework and the practical psycho-spiritual explanations that make NDEs and OBEs and so much related to them absolutely indisputable. Going back to Eben Alexander's review of The Self Does Not Die, he concludes by stating that as one studies the mounting scientific evidence in this book and other recent works on the mind-brain relationship, it becomes clear that to reach a deeper understanding, we must reject the materialist position. Now, materialist meaning nothing exists except matter, or a skeptic. This real, observed, and proven data disproves the production/producer model. That means that the brain produces consciousness out of our physical matter. Rather, it's the filter model meaning that it passes through. For example, that the brain functions as a receiver of primordial consciousness and then sends it out. Is it a receiver or producer? It's far more reasonable in accounting for all of the available evidence. Sooner or later, the sheer frustration with the ongoing inadequacies of materialist pseudo-explanations, and Eben makes a note here to emphasize pseudo, will finally nudge the prevailing Western paradigm, which means understanding towards the deeper truth as it is objectively presented in this remarkable book. Now, in regards to Eben's review, Eddie writes that two further points are significant. First, a valiant attempt to nudge the prevailing Western paradigm towards the deeper truth was one of the primary aims of the modern Theosophical Society. And secondly, that the filter model in science and psychology is not something new. It was supported as far back as the late 19th century by several enlightened thinkers and philosophers, like the father of American psychology, William James. So in Chapter 6 here in Volume 2, there's a whole bunch more on William James, his work, ideas, and insights. So the tried and truest test of the authenticity of an experience is the long-lasting effects it has on the affected person, whereas some NDEs are unpleasant and can sometimes be terrifying. Numerous NDE subjects report profound spiritual experiences during the actual NDE, and afterwards, upon recovery, their lives, their entire sense and values, outlook completely change dramatically. For example, selfish and grasping tendencies seem to melt in favor of compassion and kindness and generosity. And above all, the fear of death is gone as the subject inwardly realizes that the physical death is just a transition to a new and fuller level of consciousness, completely free from the limitations of the physical body and senses. A fine example from another classic of recent NDE literature is the experiences of Rajiv Parthi in his book Dying to Wake Up, which we will delve into in another episode. Remember, there are ebooks underway. Ebooks will be out and available. There's condensed versions that we're working on and so much more. Also, please watch for Eddie. Eddie is now out on YouTube podcasts and he'll be on the Paul Chek podcast this week. He was on the Jeff Mara podcast week before last and the Theosophical Society of America. He's also going to be on Love Covered Life and NDE TV. So keep an eye out for Eddie to be hitting your YouTube screens, and know that I love and appreciate you very, very much. These weekly studies, I just suit up and show up and try to get these out, thinking about what you might want to talk about, the paranormal, psychic abilities, NDEs. It's all covered in here. This is Unfolding Consciousness, exploring the living universe and the intelligent powers in nature and humans. And in Theosophy, and when we talked about that, I used to say all the time, it's nature is the church, and you are the temple. It's all about you. This is all about you. These are instructions for life and for living. And so we won't be here next week. We'll be here the week after. But know that I love you very, very much. And these Sunday sessions mean a lot to me. It's important that you leave a comment, that you feel included. Nothing goes unread. Everything is appreciated. And you're a part of this as well. So we may evolve into live sessions and breakout sessions, but we're just starting somewhere. This is over 1,000 pages, like 1,300 pages. So there's lots to cover. And I look forward to seeing you again week after next here on the Voice of Compassion channel for more Unfolding Consciousness. I love you. See you later.